You're not unhappy because your life is falling apart, or because you lack opportunities, or because you haven't achieved enough. You're unhappy because your mind is overwhelmed, overstimulated, and deeply exhausted from carrying emotional weight it was never designed to hold alone. In a world where everything moves too fast, where comparison is constant and pressure never seems to stop, your mind has become a battlefield of noise, expectations, and self-doubt. People keep telling you to stay positive, be happy, don't overthink, but no one teaches you how to actually do that. And this is exactly where the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita enters your life like a breath of fresh air. The Gita doesn't tell you to ignore your struggles. It teaches you how to rise above them. It doesn't say pretend everything is fine. It shows you a path to genuine inner peace. It reveals that bliss isn't something you chase, it's something you reconnect with by quieting the chaos inside your mind and rediscovering the calm already within you. Bliss is not about escaping life, it's about meeting life with clarity, steadiness, and emotional freedom. Bliss may sound like a mystical word, something reserved for monks meditating in the mountains or spiritual masters who spend years in silence. But the Bhagavad Gita teaches something completely different. It says bliss is not rare, not distant, not extraordinary. It is our natural state of being. Every one of us was born with it, but as life unfolded, layers of stress, pressure, comparison, responsibility, and emotional noise slowly covered it. I'm Roy, and you're watching Divine Gita Secrets, a place where ancient wisdom meets modern minds, where we slow down just enough to rediscover the truth hidden beneath all that noise. Today, we're going to uncover the Gita's timeless secrets for finding bliss, not someday in the future, but right here, right now, within the life you already have. Because the chaos of the world isn't the real problem. The real problem is how disconnected we've become from the peaceful core inside us. And once you learn how to return to that inner center, even for a moment, everything begins to shift. Your thoughts slow down, your heart feels lighter, and your mind remembers what peace actually feels like. Bliss isn't outside you, it's waiting for you to return. Modern life has quietly, almost invisibly, stolen our peace. And the worst part is, we didn't even notice when it happened. We scroll more than we think, compare more than we admit, and judge ourselves more harshly than we ever show on the outside. From the moment we wake up, our minds are flooded with information, expectations, and pressures that never seem to end. Even when things are going well, even when we achieve the goals we once prayed for, there's still a strange emptiness inside, a quiet dissatisfaction we can't explain. We tell ourselves, I should be happy, so why don't I feel it? The Gita answers this clearly. We don't feel happy because we've become disconnected from our inner world. We live outwardly, constantly reacting to everything around us, but rarely pausing to understand what's happening within us. Instead of listening to our intuition, we listen to opinions. Instead of trusting ourselves, we trust comparisons. Instead of slowing down, we speed up. Modern life pressures us to constantly chase more success, more recognition, more improvement, more perfection. And in that endless pursuit, we slowly lose ourselves. We try to meet society's expectations without ever questioning whether those expectations align with who we are. We try to impress people who aren't even thinking about us. We want to prove our worth to a world that never stops demanding more. As a result, even the accomplishments that should bring happiness end up feeling shallow or temporary, because without inner alignment, even success feels empty. Another reason for our unhappiness is that we've trained our minds to stay in a constant state of comparison. Every time we open social media, we are silently measuring our lives against someone else's highlight reel. Their achievements make us doubt our own progress.
Their happiness makes us question our own joy. Their confidence makes us feel insecure about our journey. Comparison is a thief, stealing not only our peace, but also our ability to appreciate what we already have. The Gita explains that suffering begins the moment we forget our unique nature and start basing our worth on the lives of others. We've also become mentally overstimulated. Our minds were never designed to process thousands of thoughts, videos, notifications, and pressures in a single day. This overload creates emotional burnout. We don't just feel tired, we feel drained on a soul level. Even rest doesn't feel restful anymore because our minds never truly switch off. And when the mind is exhausted, everything feels heavier. Small problems feel overwhelming. Small delays feel frustrating. Small mistakes feel unforgivable. This mental overstimulation disconnects us from our own inner wisdom. And then there is the pressure to constantly be okay. Society tells us to smile, to stay positive, to never show weakness. So instead of expressing our real emotions, we hide them under busyness. Instead of healing, we distract ourselves. Instead of facing our fears, we avoid them. The Gita explains that this avoidance creates an inner split, a separation between how we feel and how we act, and this emotional disconnection leads to deeper unhappiness. Most importantly, we suffer because we expect happiness to come from the outside world. We believe that once we achieve a certain goal, buy something, get someone's approval, or reach a certain milestone, then life will finally feel complete. But happiness that depends on external conditions is fragile. The Gita calls this conditional happiness, a happiness that breaks the moment circumstances change. And since life is always changing, our happiness keeps slipping away. We also cling to rigid expectations about how life should unfold. We want people to behave a certain way, events to happen exactly on time, and plans to work out perfectly. When reality doesn't match our expectations, we feel disappointed or defeated. Krishna teaches that attachment to expectations is one of the root causes of human suffering. In the end, the real problem is simple. We are searching for bliss outside, while the Gita says it exists within. We chase the world while forgetting the self. And as long as that disconnection remains, true happiness will always feel out of reach.
The Bhagavad Gita offers not just wisdom, but a complete psychological and spiritual framework for understanding where true happiness comes from and why we lose it. Krishna teaches that bliss is not an emotion we experience temporarily. It is our natural state, our inner foundation, covered by layers of fear, expectation, ego, and mental noise. When these layers are removed, bliss automatically rises. In this section, we explore the Gita's 3 core teachings that completely transform how we understand and experience happiness: alignment, letting go of expectations, and emotional independence. Together, these truths create a blueprint for lasting bliss that no external situation can break. 1. Bliss comes from alignment. Krishna explains that when your actions, values, and inner truth are aligned, your mind becomes peaceful on its own. Misalignment is one of the biggest sources of suffering. When you say yes while your heart says no, when you do things only to impress others, when you ignore your intuition, or when you live according to society's expectations rather than your own, your inner world becomes tense and conflicted. Alignment means acting from authenticity, doing what is right for your soul, not what earns the most applause. For example, if you value kindness, but your job pressures you to be harsh, you will feel uneasy. If you value creativity, but you suppress it to seem practical, your mind becomes restless. Bliss begins the moment your actions start reflecting who you truly are. Alignment brings clarity, reduces confusion, and creates a deep internal harmony that external success alone can never provide.
2. Expectations are the root of disappointment. One of the most powerful teachings of the Gita is that attachment to expectations creates emotional suffering. We expect people to understand us. We expect plans to work perfectly. We expect outcomes to match our desires. But life does not follow our script. When things go differently, we feel frustrated, hurt, or defeated. Krishna teaches that disappointment is not caused by events, but by our attachment to how those events should have happened. The Gita encourages us to act wholeheartedly, but release the pressure of results. When you focus on the action instead of obsessing over the outcome, your mind becomes lighter. You enjoy the process more. You stop overthinking and start living. This shift is life-changing. For example, if you study for knowledge rather than for a grade, you retain more and stress less. If you work for growth rather than for validation, your performance improves naturally. When we let go of rigid expectations, we free ourselves from fear and open ourselves to possibility. Happiness rises when pressure falls. 3. Your happiness depends on you, not others. Krishna teaches emotional independence, the understanding that your inner peace cannot be controlled by other people unless you allow it. In modern life, we often hand over our happiness to others. If someone praises us, we feel good. If someone ignores us, we feel bad. If someone dislikes us, we feel insecure. This creates emotional slavery. But the Gita says your worth is not determined by external opinions. Bliss comes from reclaiming your emotional power. This doesn't mean you become indifferent. It means you stop depending on others for your sense of self. Whether someone appreciates you or not, your inner peace remains intact. Whether someone agrees with you or not, your clarity stays strong. When you stop giving others control over your emotions, you experience a freedom that feels like bliss. You become stable, centered, and unshakable. This is not ego, this is mastery. Krishna's teachings also highlight a deeper reality. Happiness is not created by circumstances, but by interpretation. Two people can face the same situation. One breaks, the other rises. The difference is not in the event, but in the mind experiencing it. The Gita trains the mind to interpret life through clarity rather than fear. It teaches you to see challenges as growth, setbacks as redirection, and uncertainty as opportunity. This shift in perception reduces suffering and increases inner peace. The Gita also teaches that bliss grows when we reduce ego. Ego constantly demands control, attention, validation, and superiority. It compares, competes, and criticizes. Ego believes happiness comes from winning, proving, or dominating, but this mindset traps you in endless anxiety. Bliss arises from humility and surrender, not as weakness, but as emotional strength. When you stop trying to control everything and relax into trust, your mind becomes softer and your heart becomes lighter. Another powerful truth Krishna shares is that happiness is found in the present moment. Most of our suffering comes from living in the past or future, regretting, worrying, replaying, predicting. The Gita reminds us that life can only be lived now. When your awareness returns to the present, the mind quiets and bliss surfaces naturally. Even small moments, breathing, walking, seeing the sky, become peaceful when experienced with presence. The Gita also teaches self-awareness. Bliss requires understanding your own mind, your triggers, patterns, and attachments. When you're aware of your inner landscape, you stop acting unconsciously. You choose responses instead of reacting impulsively. Self-awareness reduces emotional volatility and creates stability. Finally, Krishna teaches that bliss is strengthened through self-discipline, not harsh discipline, but gentle, consistent practices that nourish the mind and soul. Discipline creates structure, reduces chaos, and builds inner strength. Whether it's routine, meditation, reflection, or mindful habits, discipline turns spiritual ideas into lived reality. Bliss becomes sustainable when supported by consistent inner practices. In essence, Krishna shows us that bliss is not a reward, it is a result of alignment, letting go, emotional independence, presence, humility, and awareness. When these qualities are cultivated, bliss doesn't need to be searched for. It naturally rises from within, untouched by external conditions.
The wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita becomes powerful only when it is lived, practiced, and integrated into everyday life. Bliss isn't something you wait for, it's something you cultivate through small, conscious actions that shape your inner world gradually but permanently. Krishna's teachings are not abstract ideas, they are practical tools meant to be applied in real moments of stress, comparison, confusion, and emotional struggle. In this section, we translate the Gita's wisdom into simple, meaningful practices you can begin today to reconnect with your natural state of bliss. The first practice is setting a daily intention based on values, not pressure. Each morning, before the world steals your attention, pause for a moment and say, "Today I will act from my values, not pressure." This single sentence shifts your entire mindset. It brings you back to alignment, reminding you that your worth is not defined by external approval. When you start your day with intention, your mind becomes anchored. No matter what challenges come, you respond from clarity instead of fear. For instance, if you value kindness, you choose patience even when someone irritates you. If you value growth, you focus on learning rather than perfection. Over time, this alignment becomes your natural state, and bliss begins to surface effortlessly because your actions match who you truly are. The second practice is reducing comparison. Comparison has become a silent thief in modern life. Every scroll on social media exposes you to curated highlights of other people's lives, making your own journey feel inadequate. The Gita teaches that comparison disconnects you from your unique path. To practice this teaching, create boundaries with what drains your peace. Unfollow accounts that trigger insecurity, mute negativity, reduce exposure to voices that make you question your worth. Instead, fill your digital and physical environment with things that nurture your inner world. Nature, learning, silence, or meaningful conversations. When you reduce comparison, you stop measuring your progress with someone else's timeline. You stop competing with versions of others and start connecting with the truth of who you are. This allows bliss to return because your mind is no longer in constant conflict. The third practice is gratitude, especially for the things you usually ignore. Gratitude is not about forcing positive thinking. It is about shifting your attention to what is already working. Every night, list 3 small things you're grateful for: your breath, a peaceful moment, a meal, a lesson learned, a conversation that made you feel seen. Gratitude opens the heart, it softens the mind, it widens your perspective. Krishna teaches that dissatisfaction grows when we focus on what is missing, but bliss grows when we appreciate what is present. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into sources of joy. Another powerful practice is mindful breathing. Whenever you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or lost in thought, take a slow breath in and a slow breath out. This brings you back to the present. The Gita emphasizes the power of awareness. Your breath is the doorway to that awareness. When you breathe consciously, even for a few moments, your nervous system calms down, your mind slows, your emotions soften. This simple act reconnects you with inner peace. Over time, mindful breathing becomes a habit, and you begin responding to life instead of reacting impulsively. A deeply transformative practice is self-observation without judgment.
The Gita teaches that you are the observer, the witness behind thoughts and emotions. Each time you notice fear, jealousy, anger, or insecurity rising, don't label it as good or bad. Watch it, name it, let it pass. For example, there is stress, there is comparison, there is fear. This simple practice separates your identity from your emotions. You stop saying, "I am anxious," and instead recognize anxiety is present. That shift breaks emotional entanglement and restores clarity. When you stop identifying with temporary emotions, bliss naturally returns. Next, practice detachment in small moments. If something doesn't go as planned, say, "I release the outcome." If someone doesn't give the reaction you expected, remind yourself their response is not my responsibility. If your work isn't perfect, say, "I give my best," and that is enough. Detachment in daily life reduces emotional pressure and gives your mind more space to breathe. You begin to realize that happiness is not lost through situations, it is lost through attachment. When you detach gently, peace rises gently. Another essential practice is creating moments of stillness. Sit quietly for 2 minutes each day. No phone, no sound, no distractions. Just sit and breathe. At first, your mind will resist, thoughts will race, but over time, this stillness strengthens your relationship with yourself. Stillness is where bliss lives. This simple practice is like meeting your true self again, even for a moment, and each moment builds emotional resilience. Finally, practice speaking to yourself with compassion. Many people treat themselves with harshness they would never show someone else. The Gita teaches that inner gentleness strengthens the soul. When you make a mistake, say, "It's okay, I'm learning." When you feel overwhelmed, say, "I am allowed to rest." When you feel insecure, say, "I am enough." These words may seem small, but they carry deep healing power. When practiced consistently, these teachings reshape your inner world. Bliss stops being an idea and becomes a lived experience. You begin waking up with clarity instead of chaos, responding with calm rather than fear, and meeting life with strength instead of confusion. And slowly, the bliss that felt distant begins to feel like home again.
If you've stayed with me all the way to this point, it means something inside you is already awakening. Maybe it's a quiet longing for peace. Maybe it's a desire to feel more connected to yourself. Maybe it's simply the realization that you deserve a life that feels lighter, calmer, and more meaningful than the one you've been living. Whatever brought you here, let's acknowledge one truth together. Transformation doesn't happen just by listening. It happens by choosing, by deciding that your inner world matters, by choosing to walk a path that leads to clarity instead of confusion, presence instead of pressure, alignment instead of chaos. And if the teachings of the Gita have touched you today in even the smallest way, then this is your moment to take a gentle but powerful step forward. On Divine Gita Secrets, my intention as Sujan Roy is to create a space where ancient wisdom feels alive, relatable, and emotionally nourishing. A space where you can come not to escape life, but to understand it more deeply. A space where your heart feels safe, your mind feels understood, and your spirit feels supported. I make these videos for people like you, people who want more than surface-level motivation, people who want inner peace, people who are ready to grow from the inside out. And if that resonates with you, then I warmly invite you to become part of this journey. Here's how you can take action today. Subscribe to the channel, not as a formality, but as a commitment to your own emotional and spiritual growth. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the lessons that may arrive exactly when you need them the most. Leave a comment sharing one insight that touched you, because speaking your truth reinforces it in your heart. And if there's someone in your life who carries silent stress, someone who feels lost, overwhelmed, or disconnected, share this video with them. You might be giving them the exact guidance their soul has been waiting for. Remember, bliss grows when it's shared, healing deepens when we walk together, and wisdom becomes powerful when it's practiced consistently. So let this not be the last step, let it be the first of many. Stay connected, stay open, and stay committed to this inner path. I'll continue bringing you practical teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, broken down into simple language and modern tools you can use every day. The more you show up for your inner world, the more your outer world will begin to transform. If you're ready to reconnect with the peace already inside you, if you're ready to let go of noise and reclaim your clarity, then join me on this journey. Together, we will discover the bliss the Gita has always promised. Not someday, but starting now. Your bliss was never missing. It was simply waiting beneath the layers of stress, expectations, and emotional noise that life placed upon you. As we close today's journey, take a moment to notice the subtle shift inside you. Maybe your breath feels a little lighter, maybe your mind feels a little clearer, or maybe your heart feels just a little more open than before. That gentle shift is not an accident. It's the beginning of your return to yourself. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the deepest joy does not come from the world outside, but from the calm center within you, a place that has always existed even during your hardest days. And now, step by step, you're learning how to access it again. As you move forward into the rest of your day, carry one reminder with you. Bliss isn't something you chase, it's something you uncover by quieting the noise and reconnecting with your own inner truth. I'm Sujan Roy, and you've been watching Divine Gita Secrets, a space where your mind finds peace, your heart finds clarity, and your soul finds companionship. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I'll see you in the next video where your journey toward deeper joy continues.